Welcome to the Fall Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Blasey, and this is episode number 103. So today is going to be just Justin and I, and we catch up. Justin hasn't been on a podcast for a while. We spend the first, maybe 15, 20 minutes catching up. So if you guys don't want to hear about that, you can scroll ahead to about the 20-minute mark, I believe, and then we do start a Q&A. We had a lot of listeners submitted questions that people wanted us to answer, so we get to that in today's podcast. So today we are hot, and I have a special guest on today, everybody. A guest that you haven't heard his voice in so many weeks, and we are happy to have him back. The co-host of the Fall Podcast, Justin Fabian. Let's give it a round of applause. Hey, he's back.
Here I am.
What's up, man?
Oh, I wish I could say nothing, but there's seems to be a lot going on for what's supposed to be the off season.
I feel like I literally haven't talked to you. This is the first time I've talked to you, and I feel like 3 months.
I know. I mean, you were at SCI, and I was at a couple other shows, and I know you saw Charlie Daniels talk to some big wigs, and that's about all I know about your travels. And I don't even think I responded to some of those Snapchats, but I was just like, oh, he's alive, he's okay.
Well, and that's
I'll see you when I get back.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like, I don't know, when I'm thinking about reaching out to you and just saying, hey, what's up? You're busy 24/7 when you're on the road. I mean, you're constantly getting content for Basemap and helping people out in the booth, selling memberships and just educating people on Basemap and why they should be going with Basemap, So it's like one of those things, I'm almost like, I'd rather not just, put another wrench in the spokes. I don't want him to think about he has to get back to me. Just do your thing, and we'll get back to it once the dust settles and you get back home. So that's where my head was at.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, man. I feel like the Wile E. Coyote watching the Roadrunner go by at 300 miles an hour, just dust cloud.
Yep.
Somebody else asked me, and I think I said, it was my dad. He called me on my birthday last week, and he said, how you doing? I haven't heard from you in a while. I said, I'm good. What's up? He's like, oh, nothing. Happy birthday. And I was like, oh, is that today?
I did wish you a happy birthday, though.
I said, yeah, you did. I got to say, I think you were actually the first. I know you were probably up early with Peyton, so I looked over from the bedside in Salt Lake City, and you were the first one to say happy birthday.
Well, I try to be that guy. I like to be the first guy. But let's be honest, though. My day was half over when you got up, though, because you're 4 hours behind or 3 hours behind me. So
yeah, out there, I think it was – out there it would have been 2 hours behind you.
2 hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Enough of a difference anyway.
Well, good deal. So you're back for a little bit anyway.
Finally back.
Good deal. And so
I'm on standby. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you're on call, but you could leave tomorrow.
Yes.
So how was the shows? Could you give us a brief overview of the shows and Basemap and kind of how everything went? Was everything expected, up to your guys' expectations, and how did it go for you?
Overall it went really well. It started with Portland, Oregon, and then Salt Lake City. Those were back-to-back, so the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show, and then on down to the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo, where I actually met Basemap last year for the first time. But Portland show was really good, just in comparison, and maybe this is just me being with an exhibitor this year compared to last year, just kicking tires, but it seemed like the Salt Lake show was slower than it should have been. Just general traffic-wise, I don't think there was as many people as last year. And, it's not to say, I'm not saying that because we didn't do very good in sales. We kicked ass in sales, really, but it just seemed like the traffic wasn't the same last year. And like I said, maybe because last year was my first time and I was kind of just in awe. But it was a good pace. We had a lot of help. We had a bunch of our ambassadors there, and a good part of our marketing team and some of our sales team was there. And It was a constant flow of people in and out of the booth, either buying base map or asking about it. And I don't know, from a competitor standpoint, it felt good to be in eyesight of Onyx. So they had a booth one row over from us, and it was wide open view back and forth. We could literally see people go from their booth to us, or else from us to them, and then come back to us with their credit card. So it fun. It was kind of gratifying, but at the same time, it's, we're not there to make them feel insignificant. But I mean, it's free market economy, right? I mean, we're here to provide competition for the first time, and
right.
I think it's pretty apparent that we're here to stay. And we came out of that show with just a lot of buzz, a lot of traction. So
awesome.
Kind of still riding that wave right now, and I mean, you know how it goes. You kind of get on the high, and then you start cranking out good content, and you're editing faster, and like every time you push record on the camera, you know that it's just money. It's everything just rolls.
For sure.
So
yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yep. Good deal, man. That's a good feeling for sure. And it's funny you say about the Salt Lake show you feel was kind of slow. And honestly, I've never been to that show, but I follow a lot of people that go to that show, and I saw a lot of pictures from that show on social media while it was going on, and I honestly, from an outsider's perspective, just from the pictures, it didn't seem like there was a lot of people there. I actually had that feeling myself, and I didn't know if it was, if that was just the norm or what, but I felt like the same way, and I've never even attended that show either.
No, and I mean, we were in a prime spot too. We were right in front of the Mountain Ops booth. Hush and Mountain Ops were right next to each other. And between the two of them, they had the entire wall of one of the wings. I mean, between the two of them, they had a space the same size as Mossback did with all their mounts and everything. And I mean, we were in a high traffic area. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, even Cameron Haynes was up on the Mountain Ops stage doing just live Q&As. And I mean, I would have thought people would have been lined out to the door for that, and it was a small crowd. I bet you of maybe about 100 people, 150 people.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there was just as many people like at the Exo PAX on Saturday. No, it was Friday night. They were giving away free beer. They had 2 kegs in their booth, and they were giving away free beer from 5 o'clock until the show closed. Talk about a good way to get people in your booth.
I was gonna say that's fun there. That's a good old-fashioned fun time.
Yep. But all in all, it didn't draw the crowd that I would have expected. I mean, I don't know if it was me just being an exhibitor this year, but I don't know. I didn't go to the banquet either, so I didn't really see everybody in one room.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that's good, man. Like I said, that's cool for you guys, and I'm glad you guys are trending up, and expectations are where they're supposed to be, and you guys are meeting them, so that's cool. But I do want to briefly touch on, you talked about me going to Reno, and I don't know if I told you, but you do know, Charlie Daniels was there playing. I mean, I was front row, getting hit with sweat, from old Chucky D there, and I'll tell you what, Devil went down to Georgia, front row. Oh man, I mean, it was an unbelievable experience. And that guy, he's an older guy now, but man, can he still rock it? I mean, it was sweet. So that was pretty cool. And Reno alone, I mean, I'm pretty sure Lee and I were the youngest people in Reno. I'm almost positive. I've never been to Reno, never been to Vegas, but everybody was telling us that Reno is you hear Reno is the mini Vegas or whatever, and honestly, Reno is all old people. That's just what it is. I mean, there's old people all over, and that was fun though. I mean, we got a workout in, so that was cool. We got to visit a CrossFit gym there, and actually come to find out, the guy that owns it is from Alpena, Michigan, which is not Alpena, Allegan. He's from Allegan, which is real close to me. And he actually used to work out a couple times at Lee's old gym in Grand Rapids, so that was kind of freaky, kind of weird.
Oh, weird.
Small world, but that was neat.
Yeah.
Got to interview Donald Trump Jr. for a solid 10 seconds, so that was cool. That was fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna transition your 10-second interview to the total watch time on your Hambino episode.
Oh man.
I don't even know what the total. I mean, I know you have access to that, but I just pulled it up here, and as of 7:35 Central Time on Sunday night, you are at 30,178 views.
Sure.
On just that episode.
Sure. I didn't even know that. Last
That's
time I
nuts.
checked was like Friday, and I can't even remember what it was at. I want to say, I don't think it was quite to 25,000 views, but good deal. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's a great deal.
It's
349 thumbs up and 11 haters.
Well, you know those haters, you know who they are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just
I
leave
do.
it there.
I think I do. Haters gonna hate.
There's a guy on there that he commented in there. I think it was on that video, or maybe it was on Lee's from last week, and he was like, "The amount of advertisements in this video is just unbelievable. I'm never gonna watch any of these people's videos again." And I'm like, "Sorry about your bad luck there, guy, but I mean, we're trying to run a business as well, and we don't get to really dictate how many advertisements are in it. So, yeah. I mean, sorry about your bad luck."
I'm going to guess it was probably Lee's, just because that was the episode from Rival Wild, and you guys had your plugs in there.
Yeah.
I think three ads ran on yours on the Hambino episode.
I gotcha. Yeah, we ended up taking the intro and billboards out of Lee's, so those old Rival Wilds, you won't see the intro and billboards. So just to get right to the content and everything. But yeah, I mean, Lee's is even his went up on Thursday, and that's got probably 13,000 views or something like that, maybe 15. That one's doing really well as well. Does that make sense?
Really well as well. Yeah, 13,795.
Nice. I mean, that's only been up for 4 days, so 3 days. So that's good.
Yep.
The buzz is, I mean, the Hambino episode really sparked a lot of new interest, I think, and it was almost like it was the I wouldn't say the catalyst, but it was something that there was a lot of buzz around it, and it got a lot of people there. I think in 7 days, I think we got 730 some new subscribers just in 7 days after we launched it. So I mean, I'm super grateful for everybody doing that, and I'm glad everybody's liking the content, and trying to ride a high right now and just keep this train rolling, man.
Yeah, you got more in a week than all of Basemap YouTube has in total.
Oh, you'll catch on though. You will.
Hey, speaking of that, anybody listening, go over to Basemap YouTube, hit subscribe. Appreciate it. Thanks.
There you go. Shameless plug.
And Humanimal. Check out the Humanimal page.
Yep. Please do both.
I posted a thing on Instagram when I was watching your episode the other day, and I had like 7 people DM me and say, "I just saw that," or "I watched it 3 times yesterday," or like, "Do you know that guy?" or like asking me questions about it. Like people I had no idea that knew who the Kiefer brothers were, or who you were, or what Humanimal was. Were like,
"Yep,
those guys are awesome." I was like, "You guys, you ever watch Dropped? You ever watch Rival Wild?" Like, same deal, just digital. They're all digital now. Everything's
That's
been
cool
producing
though.
stuff for like 15 years.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know if I told you. We had a guy reach out and direct message us and actually say that he, after I shot the deer and he was running away and the celebration, he said he literally started crying because it like meant so much to him, like just to see the raw emotion coming out of what Casey and I were doing, and he was like, it felt like I was literally right there in the tree with you. So, and I've had a lot of people say that, not that they were crying. He was the only one but just like they were super appreciative of the emotion that it showed, and it was just it kind of, they said that it took them back to like how it used to be almost. And I was like, oh well, that's really cool to hear, because I lived it, but then I relived it with the video, and I thought it was really good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know why. I guess I didn't take that impact from it like they did. I have no idea why.
Right.
I can't answer that, I guess. So.
Yeah, that's kind of the same reaction I got to that one that I killed last year for my first year at Midwest Whitetail. The one I killed on the ground.
Yep.
I don't know. You're in the moment. Like that's your time. And then obviously as a producer, if you can get someone to have that kind of reaction to it, I mean, that's obviously a success. So you put them right there. For
sure. It really was. I mean, and like I said, I appreciate everybody's feedback and everything like that. It's been pretty cool. So, well, I know we have been chuckling along here a little much, and I did want to get to a couple things here. One last thing before we get into what we wanted to do today, and just to kind of preempt what we're doing, is we actually reached out and asked people for some questions, kind of a Q&A, and we've been wanting to do one, and so I've got a list of questions we're going to cover, and it's a wide variety. I mean, there's shed hunting stuff in there, there's gear stuff, and off-season stuff, stands, that kind of stuff. Like, we'll get into that here in a hot second. But one last thing I want to ask you about is I heard some scuttle from you that you were saying that you've been looking to get into a target bow. So why the new interest?
I don't know, a lot of reasons. Like, I feel like deer season or hunting season in general, like I don't touch my bow until I kind of feel like I better get the dust off, and I don't know, I've gotten into, just the arrow building a little bit and, fletching my arrows and, researching front of center and trying to improve just overall accuracy on my hunting bow. And I just really think that, I don't know, this is going to sound like conceited, but I always have this attention to detail when I learn something new, and I always feel like the very first time I take it all in is when I'm going to be the best at it. And I love shooting my bow. I want to do it more than just in hunting season, so I really want to see what I can do with a target bow that's got, a magnifier in the sight and when I'm shooting for points, and just focus on all the details that are going to put that arrow where I intend it to go. Whether I'm not saying it's going to be for money, but I just think it'd be cool to kind of play with that and try to keep things in tune during the off seasons, and whether it be 3D or, a 300 or a 5-spot league or something, just something to play with. Actually, the Iowa Deer Classic is next weekend, and I fully intend to shoot the 3D tournament in that and see what happens with my hunting bow. Nice.
Go up there and just kill it, man. Just beat everybody with your hunting bow.
I mean, I think there's a class for it. So it's not like I'll be competing against other target archers, I'll be able to compete against other people with hunting bows and, and fixed pins or sliders or whatever. But I got to get over the price of a target bow before I decide to do it, because it's crazy.
And that's just for the bow.
Like, it's double. I know, it's double what a hunting bow is.
And then you got to get the magnifier sights, and then you got to get, the stabilizers, and then you got to get the arrows and the points. Yep. And
oh yeah,
it's just a whole nother expense, and I'm like, no, not for me.
Yep. First thing I would start with is that America's Best Bowstring.
Oh yeah,
selfless plug right there to Bryant.
Platinum Series, get them.
Platinum Series, yep.
Yeah, go get your Platinum Series. We actually, on the Humanimal website, if you guys go there, we have a code for America's Best Bowstring. So if you guys want a code, go to I think it's imhumanimal.com, and go to I think it's Partners tab. You'll find it. Hit America's Best Bowstrings, and there's a code there so you guys can get a discount on your strings. So go do that and go buy some strings.
Also available in the descriptions of every one of the Humanimal Season 19 videos on YouTube.
Yes. Yep. So if you haven't seen the Hambino episode, go check it out. And if you go in the description, all of our codes for our partners are in there. The ABB one, click on that, takes you right to it, lets you know. Or actually, it's listed out right there. So you just go to America's Best Bowstrings, order your string, and then the little code, type in your little code there, and get you a little discount. So do that. Shameless
Excellent.
plug. There it is. Go. Well, let's get into this thing, man. We've been talking too long. People have already shut us off, so we've only got about 3 people listening now. So let's get into this.
Yeah,
and
probably.
I'm going to start off the first question. Now, these were all listener submitted questions, whether they're through Facebook or Instagram or just direct message. So the first one is a hand release versus wrist strap release. So basically, I think what the guy's asking is, do you use a 4-finger hand release or a wrist strap, and why, basically? So do you want to start this off?
Sure. I use a wrist strap. To me, it's just more secure. It's constant connection. Like, I'm not going to have to worry about dropping it. And to be honest, I've never practiced with any kind of a hinge release or a back tension. Actually, years ago, Aaron, you gave me a 4-finger release with a thumb button on it, and that thing cost me probably a 145-inch 8-point in Illinois 6 years ago.
I remember that.
I had it clipped onto my D loop, and the deer's coming in. I reach over and grab it, and my forearm hit the button, and the release fell to the ground into the black hole of death, and that buck came in at 27 yards, and I got a shot off at him with my fingers pulling 70 pounds on a compound, and he's dead now, but it wasn't because of me.
Oh, man.
So I'm a little gun shy of a 4-finger.
Yep. So me, I'm the same way. I shoot a wrist strap, and I have forever. Back about 4 or 5 years ago, I started shooting a 4-finger thumb button, a Scott, and I really like it. It's comfortable. In the backyard, practicing out of the tree stand or on the ground, I can shoot it all day. I shot the Total Archery Challenge with it last year, did really well. But for some odd reason, when I get into a hunting scenario, my head is just not in it. I feel like my head is overtaking the thought, like, when you get into the moment of truth, like muscle memory, I guess you could say, doesn't take over, and I feel really weird. So I have more control, I feel like, and more confidence with a strap release, a wrist strap. So that's why I do that. And I don't know. I like it a lot. I'm accurate with it. It's comfortable. I actually shoot a True Fire hardcore buckle foldback, and I really like that because it folds back against my wrist, so it's out of the way. It doesn't clang on anything. I can wear it, and it's not even like I'm wearing anything really. And I don't know. It's just trusty. I really like it. I've been shooting it for probably 7 years now, and it's killed a lot of deer for me. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's not that I don't like hand releases and they're not good, whether it's a hinge or a back tension like you said, or a 4-finger. It's just that I just have more confidence in a wrist strap.
Yeah, I feel the same. It's like your favorite fishing lure. You just have that feeling every time you tie it on, and that's what's going to catch you the fish. For me, the wrist strap is having that confidence. Just takes one of those things out of my mind that's going to go wrong. I
agree, 100%. So let's move on to the next one, and this one is actually submitted by Mark. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Thanks for submitting your question. He says, mobile or set stands? Mobile stands versus set stands. What do you prefer? So I'll start this one, I guess, just because you did the last one. I'm a set stand guy, and well, I guess I could say it's kind of a hybrid. I don't know. So what I like to do is I like to preset stands, but I also have what you would call a run and gun stand. So it's never in a tree. It's always at my disposal whenever I need it. I'll keep it in my truck a lot of times, but what I like to do is I like to set my set stands because I've got a good idea where everything is moving and past history with the farms that I'm hunting. And from there, I will adjust from there. If it's not the same movement that it had been in the past years, I will either take that stand down and move it, or I will do a run and gun for a couple days. But the thing is I'm not full mobile. My thing here in Michigan is when I'm going in, I just want to be so quiet, and I just feel like I'm trying to get real tight to either a bedding area or a staging area or something, I really want to get in tight, and I don't want to be clanging around and banging things. So I just like to have those, stands placed already. But I have done a lot of running guns, a lot of hang and bangs, whatever you want to call them. My Iowa deer this last year, I did that, but that was the case of hang an observation, watch for a couple days, see what they do, and then move in. And that's how we ultimately got that one done. So that's kind of where I stand on that. Not that I don't like running a gun and hang and bang. We've been really successful doing hang and bangs, but we just don't do it exclusively. It's, we like to sit back and try to figure things out and then move in. So that's kind of my take on it. And I know you are more of a run and gun guy, so I think this will be a good mix here.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. My answer to this question is mobile setup. Number one, because I don't want to dump thousands of dollars on multiple sets. And then maybe that's a stretch, but you get 4 or 5 sets that are going to be permanent. You're going to have between sticks and the stand, or whatever. You're going to have, I would say, $600 to $1,000 into those stands, and I'm kind of cheap, so I'd rather not do that. But for me, it's about the fact that I'm hunting mainly public land right now, and primarily public land. So there's no need for me to have multiple sets. And if I did, I wouldn't be leaving them out there in the first place because they would just get stolen.
Right.
So I focused on the weight, and I've got my setup down, even self-filming. Like I carry in all the stuff, the camera arm, the base, which, don't get me wrong, at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm saying I'm done. I'm never going to do this again. But I take everything in and out almost every set. So unless I know I'm going back to that exact same tree the next morning or, later that night, I generally take it all out every time, and I pack it back in the next time. If I had private land or if I had a lease, I would probably not be that way. I'd probably have some key stands that are always in place, but then I would probably still default to the run and gun or hang and bang, like you guys call it, and just have those other pieces set as backups.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say also is, like, if I don't hunt public land, I haven't had to really hunt public land, ever really. And I think if I did hunt public land, I would get into some more hang and bangs, like, all the time, go in and hang it, take it down. And not that I'm against it, but with the private land, I've hunted all my private lands for multiple years, and the historical patterns on them are pretty much the same. I mean, you'll get bucks that, year after year have different mentalities, and you just adjust from there. But I like the pre-work into trying to figure that deer out and then go from there. And it's a perfect example. I mean, you're a mobile guy. I'm more of a set stand, but if I need to move, I will. And it shows, like, the last couple of years, you and I have both been really successful on doing both methods. So it's not like there's a right or wrong way of doing it, really.
No, not at all. And I agree with you 100%. If it is private property, and you can't deny, the historical use like you're talking about. I mean, big deer use the same areas every year, every generation. You're going to consistently see those, like when those 3 and 4 year olds get really aggressive, and those bigger, older, like 5, 6 year old bucks kind of get called out. They're going to get isolated, and they tend to go to the same places. So it's, whether it's travel or isolation, that history usually doesn't change much. So you're pretty safe in setting up a permanent stand in those places.
For sure. Yep. All right, so moving on. So next one, this one's kind of a neat one. This is actually a guy by the name of Jason sent this one in. So he said, "Do you pee out of the tree stand?"
I do. Yeah, I'm not worried about that personally. I could care less. In my opinion, it's natural in a way, yes, and it does have obviously an odor, but for me, like, just for knowing deer, I don't want to say like I do, but I feel like I know whitetails pretty well, like their body language and how they act and react. For me, if that deer can't associate that smell to a specific source or a specific danger, they don't give a crap about it. Like, it's just another pile of piss in the woods. But if they, that's my opinion. I mean, I've pissed off the stand. I dip and I spit off the stand. Like, smells like wintergreen and piss under my stand for the most part in November. Like, I'm not worried about it.
I love it.
And I don't have anything that's ever happened to me that makes me think, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or that deer would have came in if I didn't do that. Like, I cannot think of one instance where that's the case.
Yep.
So I do it.
You know, it's funny that this guy asked this because I will pee out of the stand as well. I do it a little different because I'm so, I guess you could say a little different. I'm so conscious of sound, like, you know, the pee hitting the ground from 20 feet up, it could be loud. So I try to make it hit like a crotch of a tree or crotch of the tree, or let it, you know, go down the side of the tree. But, you know, a couple years ago, I actually, you know, just wanted to do an experiment with a mock scrape. And I think what had happened was, it was here in Michigan, and I wanted to start a mock scrape, and I didn't have any scent with me, so I'm like, oh, you know what, I'll just pee in it myself. And I put a camera on it, and come to find out, I came back, and there was bucks hitting that camera. Now, you know, I might have had a 3-year-old on there, and that was probably the oldest deer, so it depends on, like, you know, what you're hunting, too. But I had bucks hitting it. It didn't, like, scare deer away, so, yeah, I do pee out of the tree. And I don't think it really bothers him. Now, Casey, he will not pee out of the tree and won't pee in the area of his stands, and that's just his prerogative. If there is a source of water around, or, you know, a little creek or drainage or something, then we'll pee in that. And I guess that's kind of the extent of it, really. But, yeah, I will let her fly out of the tree.
Yeah, and to each their own. I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this. I mean, unless you want to find scientific studies, but it's whatever you believe. Like, again, just taking those factors out of your mind that either are going to affect your hunt or limit your success, you know, don't do it. If you don't care, then let her rip.
Right, for sure. All right, moving on. Next one. So Tyler writes in and says, how do you stay focused on all day sits? I guess man. I'll start this one, and I think it could be different for anybody. I'm the type of person that I have patience for I have patience for certain things, and I have very short patience for a lot of things. I guess, if that makes sense. Like, for some reason, I can sit in a bow stand all day. I do look at my phone a lot. That is, you know, one thing, whether I'm on social media or I'm reading articles or, you know, just one thing or another, I will look at my phone a lot. But to stay focused, I guess it could be situational too. If I know there's a big deer in the area, or, you know, that's kind of can keep me focused, because you just never know when he might step out. And, you know, this year in Iowa, I mean, we were basically putting in all day sits that whole week we were there. I mean, we'd leave maybe one day for an hour at the most, but knowing at that point, I knew there was a lot of big deer in the area. So, like I said, I was on my game the whole time, just like surveying all over. And honestly, when it gets boring, one thing I've done, especially if I'm in the timber or something, is I'll just start randomly glassing and just trying to pick out things through the timber. You know, and I've actually picked out deer before way off in the timber, and it's like, whoa, you know, I would have never saw that deer if I just wasn't glassing. And, you know, I do that a lot, and just try to, you know, you can get better at glassing too, so it's like almost practicing in a way. But that's kind of how I go about it, and how I try to stay focused, and having snacks. You got to have some snacks, so stay focused that way as well.
Definite snacks. Yeah, for me, I'm just as guilty of the phone thing. I'm usually, if it's a slow day, my phone's usually dead by about 1 p.m. It's pretty bad, but I'm like you. I try to study the surroundings so much, like just visually. I want to say like photographic memory, but let's face it, you've only got a certain field of view. That's your primary field of view from a tree stand. And after the first 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, you kind of know exactly where every single tree is. And then the moment something's out of place, your eye just picks it up, and it could be a deer, a coyote, or a squirrel, or whatever. But for me, it's I'm not really studying that stuff. It's just I try to just blend in with the scene, and just take it in and just try to. I feel like I'm like being the Zen master right now or something, but I just try to become part of that scene, a part of that landscape, and just when something doesn't look right anymore, it's usually an animal.
Yep, I agree. Just trying to familiarize yourself with all your surroundings around you, because like you said, you never know when you might see the ass end of a deer or a tail flick, and it's like, how the heck did that deer get there? And
yeah,
just familiarizing yourself with it, and yeah, I mean, it is boring. Don't get me wrong. If you can stay comfortable with your clothing and your stand or whatever you're sitting in, and you got some snacks and you got your phone, like
yep.
you'll be all right. I would try to like limit the phone as much as you can. Like you said, I'm guilty. Like I'll be on it all the time. I'm not gonna lie to you. And you might miss a few deer. It might cost you. I've never had my phone cost me a deer, so that's good. But you always, deer movement always can go in waves too. You always get that wave in the morning, then maybe like a mid-morning, and then usually midday usually is kind of slower. So in a lot of sense, but.
Yep.
All right, next one. So James writes in and says, this one kind of goes with the question a little bit before here when we talked about mobile sets to set stands. And he says, when you're and this is going to be for you because I don't do a lot of this. When you're setting up a stand in the morning, how early do you get in to set it up?
I don't really know what the time frame would be, like off the cuff, but I honestly try to get in there if I have it scouted out. If I'm going in the dark, let me back up. First of all, I probably wouldn't be going in there in the dark for the first time. I want to go in there ahead of time, either do a ground hunt the afternoon before or at least have some kind of history with this piece of property or this piece of ground and at least know how the terrain lies. And, I'm not going to go in blind for the first time in the dark and tell myself I'm just going to give myself an extra 2 hours and go for it. If I know where I'm going and what my intention is, I actually like to get in there to where I make all that noise like in the blue light of the morning, and by the time I'm all set up and said and done, I'm strapped in, cameras up, and the bow's in the tree, arrow knocked. Like I want that to be all done just as it's getting light out. I don't personally like to sit there and say, I'm going to let it calm down for 45 minutes. To me, that's just 45 more minutes that your scent is lingering through the woods and, the sweat's evaporating, your thermals are falling or rising, I guess. But I have seen way too many times where deer hear those noises and are actually a little bit curious, and they'll actually come and investigate it as opposed to blow out of there. It happened to me this year on an afternoon hunt, but the deer that I wish I would have shot this year actually came in at that exact time. So is it coincidence? Maybe, but maybe not. I don't know. I just know that there is a level of curiosity that every whitetail has, buck or doe, old or young, that if they hear that noise, it's just tree bark, or yes, there might be metal clanging if you're trying to hurry, but I don't like to give it too much time to settle down.
Right.
I like to be right there and ready to go. As soon as I'm done, I want to be seeing what's around me.
Yep. And my way to answer this is I can be totally honest with you. I've never went in the morning and set up a stand and hunted it that morning. My whole train of thought is still like, I like to tiptoe in there as slowly and as quietly as I can, and get to the stand, and I like to climb it and put my harness in and latch in or whatever, and I just like to sit there and just listen.
Yeah.
And one thing I do with the main farm, my 1 acre farm, since the timber's so small, I like to just creep in early. I like to get in like cover of darkness, because when I'm going in, I'm usually going on the edge of fields or through a field, which a lot of people say, why are you going through the field? When it's in the morning, you're kicking deer out. Well, I'm trying to use the darkness to my advantage. As long as I have the wind. I mean, I've bumped deer where I know I can hear them running into the timber. They can't see me because it's like pitch black dark, and I know they can't smell me, but they'll bound into the woods. I've literally walked by them, got up my stand really quiet, and then they'll walk underneath me at first light. I've done it numerous times. So
yeah.
And that doesn't mean I'm not busting out the biggest deer and I don't know about it, because obviously I can't see it, or maybe I'm only hearing other deer. I'm not saying that I'm bulletproof doing that, but that is just my train of thought. I know it's going to take me probably another 30 minutes, 40 minutes maybe in the cover of darkness, and you're using a headlamp. I don't like to use a lamp, a lamp or nothing if I don't have to. So I just like to get in there and try to be as low-key as I can. And that's why I like to do the set stand as well. So I guess that's my 2 cents on that. But, I mean, there's a lot of guys that do that. I mean, a lot of your, old coworkers for Midwest Whitetail, I mean, they love that stuff, getting in there early, hanging a stand and hunting, and they're pretty successful at it.
Yeah, they are. I mean, Jared Mills, that's his MO. He's a hang and bang master.
Yeah, he is.
I've been on his farm with him a few times, and I know he has a few permanent sets, but I think the more that you can adapt to that, not just the landscape, but to the animal in the way it uses the landscape, obviously the more successful you're going to be. And I can think of one time where I hunted with Jared. I was filming for him, and he actually went to a stand that was pre-hung. And even then, we had to hang my stand. So,
yep, for sure.
I don't know. I'm a fan of the mobile.
All right, let's move on. The next question is, how do you slow down the moment of truth? So they're asking, when that buck or that animal is within distance and you're going to full draw, how do you slow down basically buck fever? What is your task list, or what do you do?
For me, there's 2 things. For me, I try to really focus on the deer's body language. I try to read if he's alert, if he's nervous, if he has any clue that I'm there. Watch his tail, watch his ears, just watch the way his eyes move, how he moves his neck. That's going to help me anticipate, him jumping the string or ducking. It's going to help me know better where to aim. Once I establish what his mood is or his attitude, what that body language is telling me. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I probably have the worst target panic of anybody that you could ever talk to. So my focus is literally on how far away is he, what was the range of that tree, and what pin is that? What pin do I use? And after that, it's the process of pulling the trigger. I'm terrible about punching the trigger. And I admit it, and I wish I wasn't that way, but as soon as I can identify the deer's body language and figure out how fast I have to process everything else, that usually either makes it a heck of a lot better for me to control or a lot worse. If I feel like it's worse and I'm rushing it, then obviously I'm probably not going to take the shot.
Yep. I got you. So do you initially talk yourself through anything, or is it just more, just reading that body language and, kind of letting letting that feeling like you've been here before, that kind of takes over, like a muscle memory kind of thing?
No, I honestly, I don't feel like there's much. I mean, and I know there is, but it's not something that's like intuitive to me. It just doesn't just kick in and take over. I have to physically tell myself, like, draw when he goes behind that tree. That tree was 28 yards. He's going to step out 2 steps to expose the vital. He's going to be 29 yards, 30-yard pin. I literally have to talk myself through the shot process. But it's a matter of how fast that happens. Depends on what that body language is telling me.
Okay. So mine is a little different, but there are some similarities. First thing is, just go shoot some deer. Just get does, bucks, whatever it is. I always say just go shoot some deer and get some deer under your belt, because I feel like that's like, you're on a sports team or a basketball team or a football team where it's like, that's your practice. You can practice all you want in the yard, on flat ground, from a tree stand, with your gear on, all you want. It does help, I feel like, but nothing can simulate the real thing. And that's why I like to go in, and as early as I can, I try to. It never happens every year just because I find myself in one situation or another. I try to go in and kill a doe early, just so it's like that confidence booster, and it's, okay, I can do this. I haven't done this in 11 months, but I can do it again. I've been here. So I like to do that. Yeah. But as much as talking myself through things, I don't know if I do. One thing I do a lot of is when I'm sitting in the tree is I try to visualize deer coming from a lot of different angles, and what will I do? Okay, so if there's a deer that comes from this angle or from this runway or from the north and he's going, southeast or southwest, what am I going to do in that scenario? I play thousands of scenarios through my head to hopefully like simulate in a way like, okay, what am I going to do here? I'm going to stop him there, or, that tree's, 20 yards. I can take him there. I can't shoot him there. And that's something we do with filming too. I mean, if we have someone filming us, or if I'm filming Casey or Chris or something, we always talk it through like, okay, can you see right here? I can't see there. You can see that. Okay, I can get him there. You can't get him there. So I really like to do that as well. And, when the moment of truth comes, it's just, I black out so much that it's like, I don't even a lot of times remember what happens. I feel like my body kind of takes over and just knows what to do, and it just does it, I guess. I don't know. That's the best way I can answer it.
No, I wish I could say that that's how things worked for me, but I know how bad I panic when I'm about to pull the trigger, and I have to literally remind myself to breathe and not punch the trigger. Don't punch it. Don't punch it. Don't punch it. So it's I don't know what to do to fix that. And I know that a lot of people say go to that hinge style release and take the trigger out of the equation and learn how to control that. But maybe that's true. What I'm doing right now works for me, and can it get better? Sure. It can always get better, but
well, the way I look at it too is you've been pretty successful. So just keep doing what you're doing. So
yeah, it's hard to. That's the thing. It's hard to try something new when what you're doing works.
Yep, I get it. All right, let's move on. We got 2 more. I'm going to jump down to these last 2 here, and I think you got it in front of you as well. We're going to start with the one from Jordan. Jordan says, "Do you use a dog to shed hunt?" And you were shed hunting today, so I don't know. I'll let you kick this one off.
No, I don't. I mean, I took the dogs out today when I was shed hunting, but they're not shed dogs. But the best shed dog I know is Cooper Long, the intern from the couch, back from the early days of the podcast. But I know there's benefits to that, and honestly, if I end up with property in Iowa, or if I'm in a better position to really put more effort into shed hunting, I would be interested in seeing what it takes to train a dog to do that, and actually, evolving with that process. But As of right now, I do not.
Yeah, I'm the same way. When we go out shed hunting, I take the dog. She loves antlers, but she's never been trained to shed hunt. To smell them, sniff them out, and find them. I would
Yep.
I would bet to say if she would come up on a shed, she would know what it was and she'd grab it. But she's not a shed dog either. She's a chocolate lab and just likes to run around. So I don't use a shed dog either. Same kind of way. I love to shed hunt, but here in Michigan, I've found very few sheds in my lifetime. I have buddies that find a lot of sheds in Michigan and every year, but it's just one of those things. It's just shed hunt here is I like to shed hunt, but it's not like a big priority for me because I don't find a ton of them, and I don't have a lot of late season food that I feel like I could find a lot. I have found a few, because my family farm, I've got a lot of thermal cover, so we will go walk that, and we found a few over the years in there. But I have shed hunted with a dog before, not mine. One time I shed hunted with a dog out in Missouri, and it was fun. The dog, it's pretty cool to watch him work. It's just like a pheasant dog. It's really cool to watch a good dog work, and I could definitely see the benefits to it. Like you said, you can cover more of an area, I feel like, if it's just you and the dog. A lot of times you have your friends with you too, but I could definitely see an advantage there. But no, I'm just not big enough into it that I feel like I need a shed dog or something like that. So yeah, I'm kind of the same boat you are. So the next question, Jeremy asks, what is the most important aspect to postseason scouting? So I feel like this one could be a hard question. And for me, I'll start it off. For me, I think it changes year to year. But, on my family farm, I'm trying to get into areas that I never go in to try to figure out what deer movement is in there. Maybe trying to find new bedding areas or bedding areas that I don't even know about. Try to get close to that. And then really just trying to hone in on where deer are moving, because with the snow on the ground, I really like to figure out. Now it does change a little bit because late season to early season, then rut, that will change. But still, I feel like deer are going to be moving in relatively the same areas and be using the same topography all the time, because topography doesn't change. Like your hills and your saddles and your stuff like that won't change. So I feel like deer are going to use those regardless. But that's more of like a big timber setting for me. But on like a farm country, it varies every year, because the last 2 off seasons for me were all straight hinge cutting and trying to make a better bedding area and trying to funnel deer more into one area. So that was kind of what I was honing in on more there. This year, a little bit of the same, but I'm doing a lot of driving around and figuring out where the deer are yarding up on my farm, because I can see from a long way away, and seeing how they're using the food right now. So, and I know we're in February right now, but that food for next year, in late season and end of November and December could be, a good late season resource. So I'm just trying to figure out where they're coming out of the timber, and like I said, those topographies, those things don't change. So I might find some areas where I like to get into, and I might find something new where I want to put a stand for next year. So I like to do that. And when I do find a good trail coming out of a timber, maybe into a field or a transition in between, bedding and food, I will actually take a piece of ribbon and I'll hang it in a tree, right where that trail was. So then when the snow does melt, I get a refresher. I can go back and figure out a stand location there and hang a stand. So if that makes sense, that's kind of, hopefully I answered his question there, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, you also could just drop a pin on base map and leave the ribbon out of the equation.
I really could. I mean, that is a good point. Now that I have base map, I could definitely do that.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
I'm a hard copy guy.
Yeah.
I like the hard copy. I still write on paper and a pencil. I like doing that. So
Yeah. No, I know. I hear you. For me, this is about learning more about the public ground I'm hunting. I will admit that when it comes to scouting public land, I'm a little bit lazy. I'll usually go back into a place that I've had an encounter or a good experience with in the past, and I'll start from there and then hunt it out, and I'll just push either further in, or I'll adjust the stand location based on what I see, from hunt to hunt. Because like I said, I'm usually packing in and out every day, every night. But like you mentioned earlier, I was shed hunting today, actually, and I was in the same piece of public ground that I killed my buck on this year, and that was kind of my main goal, was to go in there and just walk around and actually see what was in the area that these deer, where they were coming from when I saw them, and what's beyond the ridge, like in the direction that they were going. Like, I want to know why they were where they were when I saw them, where they came from, and what was in that direction of travel, that they were headed when I did see them, or when I couldn't see them anymore, for that matter. So, I guess to answer the question bluntly, the most important thing in post-season scouting, for me, is to understand the travel across that topography, and is it the topography itself that funneled them through there the way that they did, or is it, like you said, bedding to food, or what's the reason that the deer kept going there? Because for the majority of the time, they would go the same way, come from the same direction and going to the same direction. So I'm going to try to not be as lazy as I have been in the past. I have every intention of being in Iowa for the 2020 season. So I killed my buck in this spot last year. I had a really good encounter with a big mature 9-point in there last year. So I know the deer are using it, and I know there's a ton of deer in there. It's all oak trees. It's big ridges and deep ravines, and just a lot of places for deer to hide, to sneak through. So I only walked it today for an hour and a half, and I marked out 4 more stand locations just on that little walk within a 500-yard radius of the tree I actually killed out of. So
nice.
It was just a learning experience. So that's I don't push it during the season. I don't want to go in there and put all that scent on the ground and push deer around. I'll adjust my set accordingly based on the hunts day to day. But for me, the biggest takeaway in postseason scouting is just learning the area better.
Yeah. And I guess I probably did a more complicated answer to just say about the same thing. Go in areas where you usually don't go. And just try to figure out the movement from there. So that, just to sum that up and get off that question, I did lie to you and lied to everybody, though, because I did say that was the last question, I believe, but we actually do have one more that I missed. So
okay.
Let's get to this one and then we'll wrap it up. So this guy's asking, what is the first thing you do when you are hunting a new piece of ground, or when you acquire a new piece of ground? So what is the first thing that Justin Fabian does when you figure out you have a new piece of ground to go hunt?
I'm pulling out base map. I'm gonna e-scout the crap out of that thing. I'm gonna try to figure out. Well, let me back up. I'm still using base map for this, but depending on when I acquire that piece of land, I'm either gonna shed hunt it like crazy, cover every inch, and look for every bit of sign. Just full intrusion once, be done with it, have a visual, a blueprint in my brain, and get out of there. You might come out with some sheds if it's the right time of the year, but otherwise I'm gonna take the slow approach. I'm gonna make a conscious decision based on food sources, edge habitat, mature timber stands, ridges, and I've had so much luck in all those deep, dark, nasty holes. Like, Wisconsin's full of it. There's a lot of it here in the piece that I'm hunting in Iowa. Just those deep ravines that are just so nasty, and deer can get in and out of that stuff without being seen. I'm going to look for those things. And then the first time I hunt that, I'm going to the best spot. I'm going in guns blazing because I am a firm believer that the highest odds you're going to have to be successful on your target deer are the first time into that stand. So I'm going into the best spot with the highest hopes. First hunt of the year, that's where I'm going.
Heck yeah. I agree. So if I acquire a piece of ground, the first thing I'm doing is pulling out a map. And I'm putting icons in as many places where I think that I can get a stand in just from e-scouting. So once I do that, then I go boots on the ground, and I will go right to those spots. So I'll go to the icons right away, and I kind of work from that point back, if that makes sense. So I'll get to that tree or that area where I want to be, and then I'll really dissect it from there. I'll look at that, look at the terrain, and then start eliminating or, making a pros and cons list, basically. Is this going to be the spot that I need to be in? Is this need to be the spot that I need to be in because of these things? So I'll work from there. So then I'll kind of rate them like, okay, this could happen definitely, or maybe this might be an early season, or this is a rut spot, and then keep going from there. And I just work back from there. But the first thing is e-scouting. I don't think you could do enough of it. Honestly, my 1 acre farm, I've said it before, there's only 1 acre of timber on it, and there's 4 acres of timber on the other piece. So 5 acres of total timber. It's flatter than a pancake, but I was in bed last night looking at base map for some odd reason. I'm just looking, literally you're looking at 4 acres of timber or 5 acres of timber, and you're like, what else could you be missing? I've been in the timber a lot. I know what every tree is. I know where it's at, but I'm just looking for something else. Like, I feel like I'm always missing something. So, and something might be sticking out to you from an aerial map. I don't know. It might just trigger something like, okay, I need to get in there and figure that out again. Even though I walked by that tree 100 times, you never know. I'm always looking at a base map, to figure out where I need to go and what I need to do. So that kind of sums it up for me.
I think that's probably, the only thing we didn't touch on was cameras and recon, but I think that's kind of inherent. You'll get to that point.
Yeah.
When you start mapping all that stuff out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Like, that could be an entire podcast in itself, answering that question.
For sure. I agree. And I think, some of these questions we might do some spin-offs of, and I know there's a couple I want to get to. There's some other listeners submitted questions I knew we weren't going to be able to get to in an hour, but one guy actually wrote in and wanted to know about like a killing tree. Like, he talked about year after year, do you have a tree that is just like produces? And after I got to think about it,
100%.
On my family farm, it might not be me, but we have 10 other guys that hunt that farm. Somebody kills in that tree almost every year with a bow. So yeah, I kind of want to break down that scenario, or maybe even figure out somebody we can bring on that does that. It'd be cool to find someone out there. So if anybody listening to this knows anybody, or it could be you, if you have a killing tree that, year after year it just produces, and maybe you don't kill, but you get opportunities in that tree every year, write us. Let us know. I'd like to have someone on to talk about that. I think it'd be a really cool podcast, and it's just one of those things that's a little different that I think I find so intriguing.
There's actually a film in the Badlands Film Festival this year about a tree like that. It's actually a really good film. The entire thing takes place in one scene at this tree. You should look it up.
I will, for sure. That's cool.
Pretty good.
Awesome, man. Well, let's cut this thing loose here, and we're a little over an hour, and we've just been rambling on. Probably lost a lot of subscribers, but hey, we're just trying to do our part.
Yeah,
so
it's my first time back in a long time.
Yeah, it is. We got some good podcasts coming up. We got some good guests coming up, and I'm excited to get into it. So thanks for joining, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate you coming on and doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry it's taken so long, but I'll be fair with you and tell you that between now and May 10th, I've got potential for 3 more filming trips and then 2 more trade shows. So I might get a little thin here again after the first week of March.
That's all right. We might just have to find a replacement.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm kidding.
Someone with more hair.
A little. Well, you got enough hair on your face, so.
That's true.
Well, cool, man.
All right, man. Well, good catching up with you.
You too. And if everybody could please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and leave some feedback, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you again for all the support on the Fall Podcast and the social media channels. It means a lot to us, and it just gives us more motivation to, not that we need motivation, but it just gives us more motivation to get out there and get better guests and get more content for you guys. So thank you very much. Don't forget this Thursday on the Kiefer Brothers _Humanimal YouTube channel, we will have a new episode up there, so go check that out. Go to Base Maps YouTube, subscribe, help them out as well. It's a really cool app. Buy it. There is a free version, but buy it to get their best version and figure that stuff out too. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week.